Welcome, James. We're glad to have you back with us. James, we've got about 100 new employees since you were here last year. Would you take a moment and just introduce yourself and let everybody know what your role is as our independent trustee?
Yes, thank you. Glad to be here. My name is James Erbach. I act as the independent trustee to the MB Haynes Employee Stock Ownership Plan, or your Esop. I'm an attorney by background. I live in Jacksonville, Florida, and work with various Esop companies around the country, including 3 others here in the Asheville area, which are Plasticard, Abbott Construction, and North American Roofing. My job as an Esop trustee is to look over the shoulder of the board of directors and ensure that the company operates on your behalf as beneficial share owners in the best way it can to protect your value.
Could you explain a typical corporate structure of an ESOP?
The typical corporate structure looks much like a pyramid. You have employees as the foundation of that pyramid. They then answer to their supervisors at the next level up. Above that, we have the officers of the company who ultimately answer to the president and CEO. Those officers and president answer to the board of directors. The directors being at almost a 10,000-foot level, viewing long-term changes in operations for the company. The board of directors are responsible to answer to the employee stock ownership plan as the sole share owner of the stock of the corporation, and the employees as beneficial share owners through that trust. My job as trustee is to act as a voice for the trust that holds the shares, and to look over the shoulder of the board of directors, make sure that they're doing their job, that they're looking out for the employees, and meeting all of their corporate fiduciary responsibilities.
James, will a field employee ever be able to sit on the board at MB Haynes?
That's a great question. Let me talk for a moment about what I see as the requirements to be an effective member of a board of directors. I work with companies that range in value from $5 million to over $300 million. And being on the board of directors is a very serious responsibility. Those directors have to bring to the table strengths and knowledge from a lifetime of business experience, and that position comes with a lot of legal liability to the share owners to fulfill that duty in a fiduciary manner. There will be a time when we actually go outside to bring independent board members on, and what we will look for, and I will be involved in that process, is board members who bring a wealth of experience outside of the Asheville bubble, a lifetime of business experience, construction, and understanding opportunities and other threats that we might not otherwise see. So we're looking to really safeguard the operations of the company and to move us further down the road.
James, how are final corporate decisions made?
The responsibility for final corporate decisions really depend on the type of decision. Is it an operational decision, such as buying a new vehicle, repair, maintenance, costs, those types of things? Those types of decisions are made at the officer level with your vice president, CEO, making those decisions. If they're larger corporate decisions, such as do we acquire another company? Do we go into a new field? Do we go geographically outside of our current footprint? Those decisions are made at the board of director level because they're longer term strategic decisions for the company.
What is our role as share owners of MB Haynes?
Technically, you as an employee are a beneficial share owner. Your shares are owned through the ESOP trust, since you did not have to step up and actually put out dollars yourself to pay for those shares. They're held inside the trust for your benefit. Therefore, you don't have all of the same rights as somebody who may have spent their own money to buy those shares. Your responsibility as a share owner is to be responsible to each other, because everything you do every day directly affects the value of what your shares will end up being worth to you.
What is the total amount of shares in the company?
Currently, the outstanding shares equate to just a little over 8,800,000 shares. Of that, approximately 22% have been paid for to date and are allocated to individual share owner accounts. The remaining 78% remain in a suspense account, and we're paying those shares off over time.
How much stock gets issued each year?
The number of shares allocated is actually variable. While there are 78% of the shares unallocated that haven't been paid for to date, They are being released in accordance with two separate loans, one that was entered into a few years ago and one more recently. Those loans have different amortization periods, and as they're paid off, those shares release to individual accounts. The company, as it grows, has the option to try and speed up its payment of those accounts, but hasn't been able to so far.
Is there a set price?
There actually is. Much like buying your home, when we entered into the transaction to buy those shares at two different prices, we pay that price from that day forward. So according to what we paid for those shares, that's the same price we pay every year.
James, what's to keep you, as our independent trustee, from selling the company?
Ultimately, that is not my decision. Any decisions as to whether we receive a bona fide offer and whether the company would move forward with investigating somebody's offer to purchase the company is handled by the board of directors.
What happens to the loan repayment if we have a bad year?
Luckily, we have a very friendly bank. We owe the Kennedy family for the stock that we purchased, and they have as much interest in making sure that the long-term success of this company works out to everybody's advantage as much as to their own. If the company were to have a bad year, we're in a very good position to work together with our lenders to make sure that we can skip payments and that the company can continue to thrive and succeed moving forward.
Has or will the first portion been paid off?
The first portion has not been paid off. There were actually two loans put in place to buy 100% of the stock of the company. The first was in 2012 over a 15-year amortization period. The second loan in 2015 for the remainder of the stock was for a 30-year period. So there are still a number of years to go on paying off these loans.
We've had a question about the type of stock in the M.B. Haynes ESOP. Is this the type of stock that pays dividends?
What most people think of when they hear dividend-paying stock are large publicly traded companies that issue an annual dividend to their shareholders. The stock of M.B. Haynes, on the other hand, is an S corporation, and those corporations pay distributions. There is nothing that stops the corporation from paying distributions in the future, but so far they have chosen not to because the cash coming into the ESOP is being used for debt service.
How is everyone's account balance calculated every year?
Each year, we perform an independent valuation of the company. As your trustee, I'm the person who ultimately sets the price of that stock and what it's worth for the next 12 months. Your balance is a function of how many shares are in your account, how many shares get paid for each year and are then allocated to your account, times that share price.
James, when someone receives a distribution, how is that taxed?
I am not a tax advisor, but generally how you receive your distribution will dictate the taxes you pay on it. Because this is a qualified retirement plan, you're able to choose your distribution as either a direct payment to you or roll it over to an IRA or to another qualified plan. If you choose to roll it over, there is no taxable event at that time. At the point where you actually receive cash in hand, you will be responsible for paying taxes on that amount.
James, I've had a lot of questions from folks who are nearing the retirement phase of their career and how the ESOP is going to affect them. Can you address some of those types of questions?
I'd be happy to. Retirement is certainly something to look forward to. The way that you receive your benefits from the ESOP is almost exactly the same way you would receive your benefits from a 401k plan. As a special note to our employees who are looking forward to retirement in the near future, I would encourage you to talk to the Human Resource Department. There are a myriad of ways in which you can take your retirement benefits, and there are a myriad of ways that your financial outlook will be impacted by that. Please speak to those folks and work with a financial advisor to make sure that your retirement works the best for your individual situation.
James, if our share owners have questions that they would like to ask you directly, how can they reach you?
I welcome the opportunity to speak to participants directly. Typically, I like to see an email so that we both thought about your question and answer before we talk, but the Human Resource Department has all of my contact information, and you are more than welcome to reach out to me at any time that you have questions.
James, thank you so much for being here today and answering some of the questions that are on the minds of our share owners. Any closing thoughts?
I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today to speak to everybody about your ESOP. The Esop is a living, breathing creature and an important part of the culture at MB Haynes. This benefit should not be underestimated. It is such a powerful tool for the company and for you, and can really grow value for your retirement and change your life as that benefit becomes available. Thank you for taking the time to watch, and I look forward to any questions that you might have.